presented this twice, so if you've heard it already, sorry. I'll try and change it up a bit so it's not the same. Well, basically, my idea is to focus more on the aspect of Bitcoin, which many people have kind of forgotten. The media and everything kind of focuses on the currency aspect and the dollar value and what it does for the financial world. And from my perspective, that's a very small portion of what Bitcoin can actually do. And it's only about, in my perspective, 5% of what Bitcoin can do. So to get a better understanding what it can do for different industries and humankind as a whole and our planet and our society, it takes in terms of government, research, and a lot of different aspects which I'll cover. It's good to get an understanding because this way you'll really understand that Bitcoin and its dollar value are kind of irrelevant to the movement. And once we get past that, I'm sure everyone will understand what Bitcoin really is and what it really has to offer. So just to give you a background, from CoinSource, where we deliver news mostly surrounding altcoins. So, that's our niche. We focus on altcoin scene, we speak to developers, and we try and get in contact with people who don't really, get the chance to be in front of the media because most people concentrate on Bitcoin services, and where Bitcoin's going. But there are over 500 coins, and if you really look at the scene, these altcoins can really give you a perspective as to what Bitcoin can really do. If Bitcoin was by itself, it would be very hard to understand what it has to offer because you would have to wait for Bitcoin to do these things. So altcoins are a great way to really understand what Bitcoin is capable of without waiting for Bitcoin itself to achieve this. And it kind of gives you the variations in different industries and what it can do. So what we do is kind of review coins. We have a trust index which is implemented within CSEX, and we're working on other exchanges. It gives the users and traders an idea of how these developers have come about making these coins, and we verify them through different procedures that allocate the stars to the platforms. And through this, we are hoping to give people a better, increase the comfort level when dealing with these different coins. So one of the first things I want to cover is the proof of honor, which I wanted to bring light to those who have done a lot of hard work and they didn't really get the attention they deserve. So through this, I contacted a lot of different communities. As you can see, there are a lot of different coins listed there. So by contacting them and bringing them to the scene, it kind of gave them a chance to reveal themselves, and it gave the communities a chance to represent their leaders and the developers that they stand for. And through this, we found that there are a lot of great communities there. There is a lot of great developers who would otherwise not go unnoticed. So I really appreciated what this did, and I'm sure the developers themselves appreciated it as well. So through this, we gathered a lot of different platforms. 25 were selected to go through to the voting round. Through the voting round, we engaged a lot of developers, and after 2,500 votes, there were a lot more votes, but we had to, based on the quality of the votes, break them down to the ones that really counted. And after all of that, we engaged pretty much the entire planet, and that was something that was really remarkable to see because these are the people that are behind the coin. These are the people around the world who are working every day. And when you speak to them, every time you speak to them, "Hi mate, what are you up to?" "Oh, I'm just coding." And it's just really great to see the communities come and stand up for them because otherwise they would go unnoticed. Or not all of them. Obviously, there's a lot of them that do get a lot of attention, but it's a great way to see where these people are and who represents them, and that's their entire planet lit up. So it gives you a good understanding that it's not always about Bitcoin. Altcoin scene is driving the planet too, and there's a lot of people out there who appreciate their work, and I think that's great to see. So after all of that, we found out Amin Rafiee was the winner of this, and he's the creator of Darkpoint, which you may or may not know. The Darkpoint was one of the first coins to introduce anonymity within transactions and as a whole. The masternodes is something that people have a little bit of trouble with, but they gain a lot of attention. They're doing really well. It has been very stable in price. It's been doing really great, and Amin Rafiee was actually one of the first people to come up with instant transactions, something that Bitcoin lacked, and he solved that. And that's it deserves a lot of attention because it's something that Bitcoin in its current structure is incapable of doing unless a lot of work is done. So it brought to the scene the fact that we can have instant transactions, and the idea of 45-minute wait for a coin to go through doesn't need to exist. So it's great to see this through other altcoins. But to bring it really back and see what altcoins are capable of and what blockchain and its technologies can do for ourselves, for the government, for the medical industry, for a lot of different parts. So let's start off. The first thing I want to explain is distribution. You know, when a coin is distributed, it's always good to control it from the start. You know, once the coins are distributed through the industry, it's very hard to maintain that control because, you know, once it's spread out, different people can obtain them and they can control the market, they can control the price. And with Bitcoin as well, you know, as ASIC miners came through, they can manipulate the price and they can do a lot of things to the market, which, you know, can result into unfair circumstances. So these are two examples of how you can control that before it's released to the market. So Maggie controls it by having a CPU only. So CPUs they work sequentially, whereas our graphics card work in parallel, which makes it much more efficient at mining. So the M7M algorithm favors sequential mining. So you can't go in with a graphics card and try and dominate the scene. You have to introduce CPUs. And if you bring in a CPU farm, it drops the payout down to a point where it's no longer profitable. So it kind of forces you to bring multiple computers rather than one computer that has a lot of power, because the moment you do that, the payout drops down to a point where it's no longer profitable for you to mine. The other one is proof of capacity, which was introduced by Burstcoin, and it's been doing really well, and it's been adapted by a lot of different platforms. The reason is you can use your hard drive to mine. You don't have to use your graphics card, you don't have to go buy new equipment or hardware, you can use your existing hard drive. As long as you have free space, you can mine this coin. And this is something really I was personally waiting for a very long time. And you can see the use of this, you know, once server farms and people with a lot of hard drives get onto this, it has a lot of great potentials. And it's based off the next chain, but it works through proof of capacity. So it's great. So anything that Nextcoin is capable of doing, Bestcoin is also capable of doing. So this is the distribution of Maggie, and you can see that once you introduce a lot of power, the network difficulty goes up to a point and the payouts drop down to a point where it's just not profitable anymore. So I really like that system. I like the way they've done it, and it really favors network stability. Moving on is, you know, the uses of Bitcoin, I mean, the blockchain and what you can do. So traditionally, the Bitcoin network, you're hashing away at transactions, and what people have a lot of problems with this is they say, you know, it's a waste of power, it's a waste of electricity, and etc. In reality, I don't think that's true because, you know, you put in a lot of effort to extract gold. I think it takes like 1 ton of dirt or something to extract 1 gram of gold. So the value there allows for people to continue harvesting the gold. So in the same case, I guess Bitcoin is similar. But this is placing that computer power towards better use. So, you know, Gridcoin allows you to use that power and use it for research. You know, you can apply it to Bionic platform, and it has extensive range of fields that you can contribute to, you know, from science, from medical fields, and a lot of different aspects. And recently they introduced finance analysis, so decentralized finance analysis, and that's amazing because you can allow people to come in and do their own research, to do their own studies without requesting a central authority. QAcoin also does the same thing, though they went after university research, so decentralized university research. I think that's great as well because you can then dedicate the network to functional tasks rather than just hashing away at transactions. Folding coin is another example as well, though that's a much more simpler way of doing the tasks, and it's an easy entry into the market. So these are examples of how you can contribute to science, how you can contribute to, you know, to space exploration. There's a lot of different fields that you can contribute to. And QAcoin, by the way, is listed number 3 in the Folding at Home project, which was started by Stanford University. And when I say number 3, you're competing with people like Google and Hewlett Packard and really large firms. So the fact that they're number 3 on that list is quite amazing, and it really shows you how much power goes into mining and what it can do if placed into the right situation. The other aspect is cloud storage. You know, traditionally we're used to thinking Google Drive, iCloud, and Dropbox. These all have points of failure because once you enlist your trust towards a central authority, you have a single point of trust and you have a single point of failure. If you distribute that in a peer-to-peer network, you will no longer have that issue because you can't take down a data center. So the reason, for example, Facebook has multiple data centers all around the US is because there's so many users, so they need to distribute the network throughout the data centers, and at the same time it allows them to be stronger because if one data center goes down, another one can come up. Google does the same thing, a lot of large firms do similar things. So they spread out their data centers around the world for this very purpose. But what storage does is allows me and every individual on the planet to become part of the network. So if you really think about it, is it easier to take down 10 data centers, or is it easier to take down multiple, millions of computers? Obviously, millions of computers is much harder to take down. The other benefit of this is a peer-to-peer network. I mean, if you look at it really, if I download a file from a data center, it allocates it based on my geolocation, and based on that, it chooses which data center is closest to me, so therefore I download from there. But in a peer-to-peer network, not only can I download from the data center, I can also download from my neighbor, I can download from my friends, I can download from anyone that's closer to me. If I go offline, it doesn't really matter. If I get hacked, it doesn't matter. There is millions of other people that can replace my spot. It allows you to choose redundancy based on your own choosing. I guess, if you have a file that's not that important, it can be distributed 3 times throughout the network. But if you have, a higher budget and you want to distribute it 50 times, you can also do that. And that allows you to have redundancy based on how important a file is. Something that traditional cloud storage platforms don't really offer. I think the standard is 3 copies to be distributed. So this is actually a really, really amazing thing to experience and see as well. And then the other aspect is, peer-to-peer network, and my hard drive and your hard drive at home has much greater potential. I mean, if you compare your hard drive space to cloud storage platform and centralized authorities, you can't even compare it. The point of difference is you just can't compare it. And that really shows you what the power of people does. This is my hard drive, your hard drive, and the people around the world. And we can tap into that without introducing a central authority. I guess it really shows you what we're capable of doing if given the right circumstances. And this is what Bitcoin has allowed to do. This wasn't something that we could have done in the past, because the blockchain allows this to be done. The way that it just works makes it very simple, it makes it very easy to do. And Sean is working on this day and night. The storage team is working on this day and night, and they're doing their best to keep everything decentralized. They constantly discuss to even how to keep the team decentralized, so getting rid of community leaders and just creating little pods that people can contribute to in different places around the world to allow the extension to happen in a much more rapid and decentralized manner. Moving on is the Wall Street aspect. So traditional Wall Street stock market allows for naked short selling, which is kind of illegal in a way, but unfortunately it exists. And this destroys a lot of companies. There's 2,000-3,000 companies that have been destroyed in accordance to Patrick Ryan. And in my conversation with him, he explained to me, he said that it's unfortunate that we live in a world where stocks can be manipulated in such a way. And the reason is because there's no transparency. There's no way to determine how many stocks have been sold, and there's no way to really track them. But by the time you do, the stock could be worth nothing. And companies get destroyed through this, and it's really, really unfair. So keeping things decentralized allows you to introduce that transparency. It allows companies to go public without needing to go through the bureaucracy and to go through all this paperwork and costs and heavy fees. And it removes that exclusive clubs, for big companies to enter their public scene, rather than, in this way you can do it very easily. You can issue assets, and he said himself there are Fortune 500 companies who are also interested in this. So it's not just small companies looking to issue assets in a decentralized way. He also said currently there's 1/10% of people using Bitcoin and actively engaging in it, and that really shows you how small that is. And he said once that reaches 3 to 5%, you'll see a massive change. And coming from someone that has such a large knowledge on internet use, he was mentored by Warren Buffett. So it really shows you where it's all going. The network effect, once it kicks in, you can't really stop it, and that's how the Bitcoin network has been growing. Moving past that point is decentralized governance. This is a really important fact. Susan from BitNation explained this, because in countries like Africa and Afghanistan, you have issues with land ownership and disputes rise, and through this there's wars and there's violence and crime and a lot of different things. The reason is people can sell the land multiple times. It's the physical nature of double spending, the very thing Bitcoin disallows and tries to overcome. So by using the blockchain in the decentralized governance, you can register a land immediately to the blockchain, and once that's done, it's final. You cannot beat it, you cannot cheat it, you cannot edit it. And you can also use this as a proof of ownership. So you can use this to prove that the land was purchased in case of a legal dispute. It also reduces war. I mean, that's much more significant than the dollar value of the financial applications. There's a lot of countries out there that don't have access to financial facilities. They There's billions of people in Africa and third world countries that don't have banks, and they've been using M-Pesa, which is the mobile function of sending SMS as a way of, not SMS, sorry, using a phone credit as a way of purchasing things. So imagine Bitcoin introduced to these people. They're already used to using their mobile phones for purchasing. So this is where Bitcoin is really gains its power, and this is remarkable to experience and see, in my opinion. And then you can have business registrations as well done in the same manner. So, there's parts in Africa where it may take 3 months for a business to be registered. I mean, if you really think about it, why should it take 3 months? Why should it take 3 months for you to have a business registered? It should be something that takes a few minutes, and it shouldn't cost more than a few dollars. It makes no sense. So the moment you introduce this to these countries, imagine a country where the guy's business allows him to feed his family, and why should he wait 3 months to feed his family? It can be done in a few minutes, and he can go about his day and worry about things that are more important, how to bring food to his family, how to help his friends, how to help his community. So these are really significant aspects. The other part is the universal basic income. In my last conversation, I didn't really take into account that in the Netherlands especially, this is a very big topic. The more I researched into it, I found that this is something that had been tried. In Canada also, they did an experiment where they handed out, money, in a way that the people didn't really work for it. They just put money in a particular community, and it was very successful actually. The last time I didn't have enough background on that, so I wanted to just quickly play you a video that may explain it better than I did. Sorry, is there a sound that I can plug in or no? Doesn't matter. But you can look this up later. So basicinncome.co, and it explains how it works. So through the tax interaction of tax between merchants and consumers within that network, you create an income, and this income can be provided to the entire network. So if you don't pay tax on something, for that amount that you didn't pay tax, you don't receive any income. So the moment you don't pay tax, you don't get an income. But the moment you do pay tax, you receive an income. So it's an incentive layer, as they refer to it. You can go more in detail into that, but it just shows you that what blockchain can do, what the Bitcoin technology can do, is far beyond what the financial application is. This is creating communities and self-governed and self-sustained networks that can overcome our existing ones. And it's unnatural to, live in a world where 20 million or even more people live under the same rules. It makes no sense. We're all different people. We all have different needs. So why should we follow the same rules? And why should we live in a nation that has the same rules for the very wealthy and the same rules for the very poor? It doesn't really make sense. So allowing multiple governments or a decentralized government treats people in a better way. You make the problem a local one, and a local community can be controlled and sustained much better than one that takes into account millions of people. Because when you take into account millions of people, you always neglect some. So it doesn't work that way. This is a good way of evolving past that and really looking at the situation in a decentralized way. And then, you can take into account what decentralization is in respect to centralization. So in a centralized system, you always have issues. Things get hacked, there's fraud, there's stolen bitcoins, which are all points of failure due to a centralization issue. Now they're working on exchanges that have wallets. You can have hot wallets that are displayed with signatures on it and it's tied up. So in case something goes wrong, your money doesn't get lost. There's also laws and regulations that centralization introduces, which in a lot of times limit and create boundaries between the interaction of the merchant, consumer, or humans in general. So decentralization allows you to trust each other in a way because you remove that point where things can be stolen, things can be broken. It promotes trust. It takes us back to the traditional way of exchanging information and exchanging things of value. It's faster, it's more effective, and it's much more secure without introducing heavy costs that normal centralized authorities introduce. And then you have community support. This is another aspect which I find really amazing to experience. You go into a community and you ask a question, and there's people within that community that are willing to help you. There's people here who stand for this and really try and promote it. And I'm sure you all can relate to this, that it really resonates with each other. It resonates with the idea of liberty, and it resonates with the idea of freedom, because you get to have a say. You're not just given a policy and this is our rules and therefore it is the way it is. All these kind of old methods of approaching problems I feel are outdated, and this is a new way of approaching them. And then you've got to look at centralized authorities in a way that they introduce tools in places that don't really need to exist. So, by the paths that created, they can go without a tool. They introduce tools along the way, and by the time you've crossed the paths, you've lost money, you've lost time, there's there's a lot of headaches involved that don't really need to be there. So through the blockchain, through this, we remove this. We make things more, streamlined. It's much quicker, it's much faster, it's much more secure, and you're not spending your money on things that don't really need to be there. And then there's applications of this. So business relationships. Cashier is a good example of this because it allows for multi-currency wallets. It allows for gift cards and coupons in a way where if the coupon or the gift cards expire, the value goes back into your wallet. And why should you lose that value? Why should it be that if a coupon expires, suddenly it's lost its value? These things make no sense. So by using these new platforms, we're really given this insight as to how we can improve this and how we will overcome these boundaries in our current existing financial and economical systems. And then you have internal marketplaces where people can sell and buy things. You don't need to entrust it to eBay or all these companies that come and take fees. eBay takes I think 10% or something off each transaction, and PayPal takes some. Why? Why should they take money off things that you're doing the work for? All they're doing is providing a system for you to exchange items or exchange information. So for them to take that money, it really doesn't make any sense. And it's just something that we think that is normal. But Bitcoin and the technology that it has to offer really shows you that it doesn't need to exist, and we've come past that. And then you have cards that you can, this is by eCoin. I really like this because, once you register with them, you only need to provide your name and address. There's no driver's license, there was nothing involved, and 2 days later you receive a card. This card can be topped up with Bitcoins, and you can use it anywhere where Visa is accepted. They have, they have the Euro, they have the USD, and they have the pounds as well, and they'll soon bring that up. It's accepted with merchants and accepted at a lot of different places. So you don't need to wait for credit ratings and all these crazy things and go to the bank, fill out the application, wait 2 weeks till you get your card and send you your driver's license, and they can block your account. And all these things are, it's like a dictatorship. It's almost like you need to do this to get this. And I don't think it's correct. We live in a capitalist world where there should be free trade. And I feel like capitalism has never really existed, and Bitcoin may perhaps introduce capitalism for the first time to our nature. I feel like everything else is just a dictatorship, a set of laws and everything that we have to follow. We have no say in this. And I'm sorry to say it, it's just the way it is. And then you've got entire ecosystems popping up. So for example, NoCoin allows for payment gateways to exist without needing to authorize outside centralized authority. So they have their own payment gateway. They offer a discount because they use their coin. This is something that's really new and it's revolutionary because you can get up to 25% off their discounts by just using their coins, or you can get 15% by using Bitcoins. But if you use normal PayPal or anything else, you don't get that discount, obviously because they can't afford to do that because of the heavy fees and everything else that's involved. So it really shows you, not only do we benefit as consumers, we also benefit as merchants because we can offer our